topic today, that is addiction. Okay, why it is interesting? Because we know that this is one of the problems which is affecting the youth of today. Okay, very soon you will be going into colleges. Maybe you come under many other such situations where you find people around you getting addicted to such drugs, such kind of different kinds of addiction. You will be lured towards different kind of addiction, or maybe even till today you have come across such people who are addicted and who try to lure you towards these bad habits. But as biology students, as good students who are more focused in their life, we know the harmful effects of these addiction. We know what long-term effects it has on our physical, mental, and social health. Because once a person falls prey to these addiction, it is not only the physical being that is affected. Even mentally, you will become very weak. You are not able to take your decisions properly in life. Plus, it affects the people around you, the people who care about you, your parents, your siblings, all are affected by this. Your whole life gets damaged because of these petty addictions. Okay, so we'll be starting with what is addiction, what are the different types of narcotics, how do we divide them, from where are they extracted, what are the effects on the body, etc. This we'll be doing in the topic addiction today. Okay, so we were on the addiction, and then just a minute. Okay, so this, what do you mean by addiction? Okay, we have done in about the chapter, we have done about with diseases, etc. Now we are coming to the actual problematic disease of the society, which is actually affecting the society on a great level, that is addiction. And how do we define addiction? It is a habitual, physiological, and psychological dependence on a substance or practice which is beyond voluntary control. Once a person starts taking a drug, starts taking any of these narcotics, then it forms a habit, because some of the physiological functions, suppose the secretion of dopamine is decreased, or it is going and binding to the dopamine receptors. Suppose, I'm giving you one example. Then when this drug is not taken on its own, the nervous transmission will become very slow. The person may suffer from severe pain, severe cramps. So because body has become habitual to that artificial substance coming inside and controlling very many of their activities, whether it is physiological activities or psychological, whether the transmission of messages are being controlled by these drugs. And over the period of time, our body and our brain becomes so habitual to the presence of these drugs and the control of the activities being run by the drugs, that in the absence of drug, severe symptoms are shown by the body. Okay, so that is why we become habitual to our drug and we cannot voluntarily control it. It is not under voluntary action. Involuntarily, we are getting habitual to our drug. So when we talk about addiction, addiction can be of three types. The first type of addiction is tobacco addiction. So what is tobacco addiction? Now, when you see your NCRTs, you will not get all these headings. They have not divided addiction into different headings. They have not divided the narcotics into various headings. So that's a big problem with NCRT here. So it's better if you study it under these headings, and even the narcotics we will study it under the various headings like sedatives, tranquilizers, etc. Okay. So first is tobacco addiction, that is Nicotiana tabacum or Nicotiana rustica are the two plants from which tobacco is extracted, and both these plants belong to the Solanaceae family. Okay, mode of use, it is either filled in the cigarettes and smoked, or tobacco powder, it is in the form of tobacco powder which is taken via mouth, or it is a powdered tobacco which can be taken through the nose, which a process which is known as sniffing. Okay, so snuffing. So what is snuffing? The powder is kept on the table and then it is inhaled with the help of nose. So there are three ways of taking tobacco. Tobacco can be taken in the form smoked in the form of cigarettes. It can be taken via mouth, or it can be snuffed. Okay. Then is, why is this tobacco taken? What are the effects of immediate effect? What benefit it is giving to that person who is taking this tobacco? These are not actual benefits. These are temporarily the feelings of that person. What type of a feeling that person gets immediately after taking tobacco. It gives a feeling of tranquility. Tranquility means you feel everything is well, everything is very good. You have lots of problems around you, but when you take tobacco, it gives you a feeling of tranquility. Everything is good. I'm living in a very peaceful condition. That means in a different state of mind the person goes, because the brain does not remain active. Okay, means makes people alert and active. So that means the activity of the brain increases, and that is why that tranquility, that feeling of tranquility, the feeling of sadness, the feeling of depression, the feeling of laziness goes away for the time being. But can you imagine if this feeling keeps on taking place, a person becomes habitual to tobacco, then in the absence of these tobaccos, the brain will never feel active. The brain will fail to feel alert, and the person may go into a severe depression. That is why severe withdrawal symptoms are there if suddenly any of these drugs or any of these addictions are stopped. So that is why the government has formed all these various de-addiction centers. In de-addiction centers, very slowly and gradually, just like with steroids, whenever we take steroids are taken as painkillers, so even steroids are never stopped completely in one go. If suppose the doctor has prescribed me steroids for a particular medication for suppose 10 days, so immediately after 10 days the doctor will never say stop steroids on the 10th day. No, doctor will tell me, okay, if you are taking one tablet, take half a tablet. Then after 4 days, take 1/4 of a tablet. And then after taking 1/4 of tablet for 2 days, 4 days, and then stop the tablet. So that slowly and gradually my body restores to normal. Okay, same is the problem with drugs. They cannot be stopped in one go. Suddenly, okay, today I stop taking drugs. A person is habitual of taking drugs today. Okay, fine. He decides I stop taking drugs today, and then he will not face problem. He will face so many problems that it is for sure that he will be lured towards drugs. Okay. Now, what is present in the tobacco that leads to addiction? Nicotine present in tobacco stimulates the release of adrenaline. And you know, adrenaline is the 3F hormone: fight, flight, and fight hormone. Okay, it leads to high BP and heartbeat rate. You have studied in class 10 the what happens when adrenaline synthesis takes place. BP increases, the heartbeat increases, blood is sent more towards the skeletal muscles, less blood is sent towards the digestive system and skin, breathing rate increases, and all this leads to a higher ability of a body to fight or flight. So that is why tobacco chewing makes person alert and active, because it is increasing the adrenaline level in the blood. Okay, and because it is leading to increased heartbeat, the risk of heart failure is there on tobacco chewing. It can lead to lung and throat cancer because we are taking it by the oral route. So it is acting as irritant. Remember, cancer is caused because of presence of physical irritant. So this tobacco is a type of a physical irritant, and it can lead to oral cancers. That is why nowadays on these tobacco products, they show that picture of that ugly picture of tobacco of this oral cancer, so that the people are alert that if we are eating this, we are subjected to, we can suffer from this oral cancer. Okay, cough and bronchitis, because anything which acts as an irritant will lead to coughing and bronchitis, inflammation of the bronchial tubes. Episma, that is decreased area for exchange of gases in alveoli. The alveoli are damaged or they are choked, because of which the area for exchange of gases becomes lesser, so less oxygen goes to our body. Pulmonary tuberculosis may also lead to damage of lungs, which may cause tuberculosis. Okay, so these are the side effects of tobacco chewing. Okay, then is the second type of addiction. First was tobacco addiction. Second is alcohol addiction. Now, when we talk about alcohol, the source, the form of alcohol which is taken, because alcohol is a group, it is a functional group. The carboxylic group is a functional group present with so many organic molecules. Okay, so the alcohol which is actually taken during alcohol addiction is ethyl alcohol or ethanol, that is C2H5OH. That is why methanol is toxic, it is poisonous, whereas ethanol is addictive. It is produced by fermentation of starch or grains. You know, yeast produces ethanol. We have studied about fermentation. It is the byproduct of fermentation. Okay, what are the effects of alcohol? Alcohol, because it is taken by the oral route. So when it goes from stomach to intestine, from intestine it goes to the liver. It is absorbed and it is via blood. It goes to the liver. Inside the liver, fat is synthesized. Less glycogen produced by liver. What effect it has from on the liver? We know that liver carries out a very important function. The glucose, with the help of insulin, it is converted into glycogen and stored. Okay, so instead of glycogen being formed more, when alcohol is taken, the glucose is converted into fats and it is stored. Fat from liver goes to the blood, heart, and lungs, to various body parts. It oxidizes and produces some energy. That is why after taking alcohol, a large amount of energy is felt in the body, because that fat, glucose converts into fat. The fat goes to different parts of the body, and there we know that fats give us more energy than carbohydrates. So when these fats are metabolized in the body parts, it gives us a large amount of energy. So that is why after taking alcohol, people feel more energetic, or they feel that their tiredness has gone. So that is actually because of fats which are being produced. So in long term, if too much of fat is being produced, it may get stored in liver and it may lead to various types of problems. Okay. The effect is deficiency of nutrients, reduced immunity. When too much of alcohol is taken, it leads to deficiency of nutrients because the proper diet is not taken. Then is reduced immunity. Alcohol, it's depressant to the brain. It depresses the brain. So in long run, the brain doesn't work properly in the absence of alcohol. Large doses leads to fall in BP. Fatty liver, when fat is being formed in the liver and it gets deposited in liver, if it is not, all of it is not migrated, it will deposit in the liver, leads to fat synthesis in the liver, resulting in fatty liver. Hepatitis, hepatocytes, these are the liver cells. So when too much of fat deposition is taking place, it can also damage the liver cells, resulting in hepatitis, inflammation of hepatocytes, that is the liver cells. Then is cirrhosis. Cirrhosis is one more symptom of or the side effect of alcohol. It is the destruction of hepatocytes and fibroblast cells and increased collagen protein formation. When these two types of cells are destroyed, hepatocytes are getting destroyed during hepatitis. Along with this, it also destroys the fibroblast cells. And when these two types of cells are destroyed, it increases the collagen protein formation and the liver shrinks and becomes hard. So that is why alcohol, what is this? So in common terms, it is said that alcohol affects the liver. Okay. So alcohol affects the liver. Why? Because first it is causing fat synthesis in liver, and because of fat synthesis, the hepatocytes and the fibroblast cells are getting destroyed. When these cells destroy, collagen protein is formed in large amount, and this collagen protein hardens up the liver, and the liver also shrinks in its size. And all these decreases the ability of the liver to produce bile in sufficient amount. And if bile is not produced in sufficient amount, definitely digestion will not be proper. Okay. Then there's one more point which is called as, one more effect is fetal alcohol syndrome. And what is fetal alcohol syndrome? It is the malformation of body parts of the fetus. That is why pregnant mothers are advised not to take alcohol. Okay. Why? Because if they consume alcohol during pregnancy, it can lead to fetal alcohol syndrome. That is, the body parts of the fetus may not be formed properly. Okay. So these are how the alcohol affects our body, why it acts as a stimulant, why it gives a relaxation feeling to the body because more energy production is taking place, and what are the side effects of alcohol addiction on our body. Immense side effects are there. Okay. Then the third and the most important part is drug addiction. Why I'm saying important part? Because this is the part which is dealt in maximum detail in your NCERT. Okay. So what is drug addiction? Any substance. What is a drug? First we must understand what is drug, and when we get addicted to drug, when our body becomes habitual of taking drug, we call it as drug addiction. Okay. So what is drug? Any substance or product that is used or is intended to be used to modify or explore the physiological systems or the pathological states for the benefit of the recipient. I want to relax myself. I want to sleep comfortably. I'm not able to sleep comfortably. I'm suffering from immense pain. I'm suffering from either depression or anxiety. So, for my own good, okay, I am taking a drug which is disturbing my physiological or the pathological status in such a way that it is giving me temporary relief from that problem that I was facing. Okay, so any such substance which is taken for the benefit of the recipient, which modifies the physiological or the pathological states of the body, is known as a drug. And when the body gets addicted to it, then the body cannot work normally in the absence of a drug. We call it as drug addiction. Now, how do we classify these drugs? We know that the drugs are habit forming. Okay, so how do we classify these drugs? We can divide these drugs into two types. First is the psychotropic drugs. What do you mean by psychotropic? And let's see the second type. The second type are the psychedelic drugs. Okay, so psychotropic and psychedelic drugs are the two types of drugs. Although these terms are not there in your NCRT, let me tell you, but you must understand these terms. So psychotropic drugs, when do we call a drug as a psychotropic drug? A psychotropic drug is a mood altering drug. It affects the behavior and mental ability activity of the person. That means if you're feeling very, very low, you take this drug and then you suddenly start feeling normal. Okay, there's no problem in my life. I'm into a different world. Tranquilizer feeling is there. Okay, or you're feeling having a feeling of anxiety. You're too much. You are not able to sit still because of that anxiety. You take that drug and your body becomes calm. Your brain becomes calm. Okay, you are not able to sleep. You take that drug and your brain becomes calm and you go to sleep. So they are mood altering drugs and they affect the behavior and the mental activity of a person. Now, the psychotropic drugs also can be divided into four subtypes. The first type of psychotropic drug are tranquilizers. You must have heard of this term, very commonly used, tranquilizers. Tranquilizers means that which relaxes the brain. Tranquilizer is anything, tranquility. Tranquility means the peace of mind. You're in a state of complete calmness. That is what is called as tranquility in English. Okay, so tranquilizers which give you that feeling of calmness of the brain are tranquilizers. They decrease tension and anxiety. They produce feeling of calmness without sedating. A major side effect of majority of the drug is sedation. Sedation means they induce sleep. After taking these drugs, the person feels very sleepy. For example, have you ever taken an anti-allergic drug? Whenever you take an anti-allergic drug, and suppose you're suffering from any kind of skin allergy or anything, and doctor prescribes you an anti-allergic drug, are you able to keep your eyes open in the class? See, when the teacher is teaching in a monotonous way, definitely then also it acts as a tranquilizer that acts as a sedative to you all. But I'm talking here about drugs. That is, and if you take an antihistamine drug, that is, histamines are produced in allergy. So if you take epinephrine, etc., the antihistamine drugs, then whenever you take these drugs, a major side effect of these drugs is they induce sleep. Okay, so you're not able to keep your eyes open during the class if you have taken an anti-allergic drug. So, but the benefit of these tranquilizers are that tranquilizers, they reduce tension and anxiety, but do not cause sedation. These tranquilizers are of two types. First is phenothiazines. Phenothiazines are called as the major tranquilizers. They are used in psychotic patients who are mental patients who are suffering from any psychological disorder. Their mind is not at peace. Okay, they are overreacting to various situations. Okay, their mind is constantly, they are moving from one place to another. They cannot calm down, and a small situation just excites them too much. So in psychotic patient, it reduces the aggressiveness because it calms down their brain and does not cause sedation. So phenothiazines are the drugs. See, drugs is a term which is not only given to these harmful drugs. It is also given, medicines also in science are called as drugs. Okay, so a medical person or a chemist is also known as a drug dealer. Doesn't mean he's selling crack and cocaine. Okay, so if he is selling medicines, he is a drug dealer. Okay, so phenothiazines are type of drug that is they are given as medicines to people who are suffering from psychotic illness. Okay, benzodiazepines. Benzodiazepines are called as minor tranquilizers. They are used for anxiety and phobic condition. You've heard of hydrophobia? What was hydrophobia? A side effect of rabies. Yes, in rabies, hydrophobia occurs. That means even the sight or the presence of water, it creates a fear in the person's mind. Why? Because the oral route has become so much infected that it is the thought of swallowing water gives pain. Swallowing of water is very, very painful for a person who's suffering from rabies. So even the thought of water, the presence of water creates a phobia that if I drink it, I'll suffer from that pain. Okay, so fear of something, excessive fear of something is known as phobia. So if a person is suffering from phobia or is suffering from any kind of anxiety, overactiveness is anxiety, too low functioning of the brain is depression. So when a person is suffering from anxiety, overactiveness of the brain, or has phobia, then it can be given hastened sleep. If suppose, although they do not cause sedation, but because the mind becomes calm, therefore the person is able to sleep. It reduces intermittent awakening. If suppose a person is not able to sleep comfortably, and after even small sound, even a small, if a person near him takes turns the back or something, every small thing awakens that person. He's not having a sound sleep. In that case also benzodiazepines are given. But we are talking about the drugs which are given and administered by a doctor. So if I'm talking about intermittent awakening and somebody is having fear of the NEET examination and suffering from intermittent, okay, we studied about benzodiazepine, let me go and take one. No, this should not be done. They are all habit forming drugs and should be taken under strict medical supervision. Otherwise, make yourself strong, make your brain strong to bear the anxiety or the depression that may come due to failures in life rather than relying upon these drugs. These drugs are for the weaklings, they are not for strong people. Okay. Skeletal muscle relaxation. If you're having too much problems in the skeletal muscles, pain in skeletal muscles, then it can relax the skeletal muscles. Benzodiazepines are the groups. So these are tranquilizers which give calmness to the brain without causing too much of sedation. Then the second one is sedatives and hypnotics. The second group, sedatives and hypnotics. So what are sedatives? They reduce excitement, cause the sleeplessness. The brain becomes calm and induces the sleepiness. And hypnotics, they induce sleep. Okay, so sedative will calm the body, calm the brain so that the person is able to lie down comfortably, and hypnotics will induce that sleep so that the person can sleep comfortably. Okay, they are of following type. The first type of sedative and hypnotics are barbiturates. Barbiturates are derivatives of barbituric acid. They are general depressants commonly called as sleeping pills. So these barbiturates are types of hypnotics which are given in the form of sleeping pills so that they can depress overactivity. When you're constantly thinking about something, you're not able to sleep peacefully. When your brain is relaxed, then you are able to sleep peacefully. So they are depressant. They depress the overactivity of the brain, which results in comfortable sleep. Then is continuous use may cause permanent damage to the brain. If they are used without medical supervision, continuously, person becomes habitual, cannot sleep without a sleeping pill. In long run, it leads to complete damage of the brain, irreversible damage to the brain. Okay. Then is second group, benzodiazepines, which are commonly called as BZDs. They also have anti-anxiety and sedative effect. So they reduce the activity of the brain and they have a sedative effect. But all of these in long runs have a negative effect on the activity of the brain. Okay. The third category is the opioid narcotics. Now this is important because opioid narcotics, although not under this heading, but they have shown, if you see your NCRTs on page number 158, they have shown you an opium plant, okay, and in the headings drugs and alcohol abuse. All the other things which you have discussed so far, they have given in brief in the first two paragraphs. The third paragraph starts with opioids. So these opioids are actually these opioid narcotics that we'll be discussing now. Okay. So opioid narcotics, they are derived from opium and their synthetic relatives. They bind to specific opioid receptors in CNS. Now, what are these opioid receptors? We know that our central nervous system and the neurons, they have receptors present on the dendrons, and these receptors bind to the specific neurotransmitter. Each and every receptor. This is how message transmission takes across synapse. एक न्यूरॉन उसके सिनेप्टिक नोड्यूल में से न्यूरोट्रांसमीटर निकला, उसने दूसरे वाले न्यूरॉन के रिसेप्टर को एक्टिवेट कर दिया. So that means all the message transmission is taking place with the help of neurotransmitters to the receptors. So अब ये drugs क्या करते हैं? They go and bind to specific receptors present in the neurons, present on CNS and GI tract and relieves pain. जब वो receptors से bind होते हैं, तो feeling of calmness comes, और जो pain हो रहा होता है body में, that pain is temporarily not felt till the time they remain bound to the receptors. So these receptors are present in CNS. Opioid receptors are found in the neurons in CNS and GI tract also. Okay. So the first type of opioid narcotic is opium, which is in common words, common terms called as affine. Okay. What is the source? The source is latex from the unripe fruit, that is capsules of poppy plant, that is Papaver somniferum, belonging to family Papaveraceae. Okay, so let's see what this looks like. So this is an opium plant. Okay, so why I'm showing you this plant and the structure of morphine, because in boards you do get examples. They show you the plant. Okay, although they'll show you the similar kind of plant which is shown in your NCRT, but yes, you should relate. If some other picture is there, you should be able to relate to it. So sometimes the question has come, they show you the plant and they ask you and identify this plant and the type of drug which is extracted from it, from which part of the plant the drug is extracted. Okay, and name the drug which is extracted from it. Fine. So such questions have come in board for all these three plants which are mentioned here. So for opioid narcotics, this is an opium plant and this is the unripe fruit of the opium plant, and you can see this white dot-like structures coming out. So this is the latex which is coming out from the unripe fruit of an opium plant, and this is the source from where the opium is extracted. Okay, the morphine is extracted. So morphine is the principal alkaloid in the opium. It is therefore described as prototype. So forget about that. Just remember that from opium plant, this drug, this alkaloid which is coming out in the latex is morphine, and this morphine is extracted from the unripe seeds or pods of Papaver somniferum. So this is Papaver somniferum belonging to family Papaveraceae. Okay. Now what is the structure of this morphine? The structure of this morphine is like this. Okay. But the structure which is shown in your book is this. Okay, so what is this? What have they shown here? This is the structure of smack, which is a drug. Okay, so it is a modification of morphine. When morphine is acylated, when acylation of morphine occurs, it converts into smack, which is a drug. Okay, so just remember this bird beak-like structure so that you can demarcate between the different types of drugs. So given, so this bird beak-like structure which is given, okay, 2 legs and a beak. Okay, so this bird-like structure is of smack or the chemical structure of morphine. Okay, this is also morphine, only acylated morphine is there. Okay, so this is what is opium. Let us see what are the other side effects and the effects of opium. So the physical property is it is reddish brown colored with heavy smell and bitter taste, because after purification of that whitish structure which is latex which is coming out, then this opium, this morphine is extracted, and after extraction it gets a reddish brown color and heavy smell, very strong smell, and it has got a very bitter taste. Okay, method of taking it is either eaten or it is smoked in the form of cigarettes. Okay, what are the effects. It is a narcotic. It is analgesic. What is analgesic? Pain reliever. Okay, analgesic is a pain reliever. It is astringent. It is causes contraction of body part. This is the effect on the body. It causes, it seems as if the body parts are contracting, and it has a massive sedating effect. So the immediate effect will be that because it is a narcotic, it will give, it will modify the physiological functions. Plus, it will act as a painkiller, and it will feel as if the body parts are contracting, not actually contracting down, person becoming a dwarf. No, it feels as if it leads to the contraction of the blood vessels, and it has got a sedative effect. The main effects are analgesic effect and the sedative effect. Yes, Aditya, wanted to ask something?
Yes, ma'am. Structure of morphine will be asked in the question
Yes,
two. Ma'am, in exams, like
yes.
structures of morphine, cannabinoid molecule will be asked, or just like a reference will be given, like identify this.
See, both ways the question has come in boards. Uh, Once a question was asked on draw the structure of morphine. Generally, the question on draw the structure of morphine are very rare. The general questions are identify which type of drug the following structure represents. More commonly, such type of questions have come. Even for plants, they give you the diagram of the plant. They don't ask you. Never. They never ask you to make the diagram of the plant. But be prepared with the diagram of the structure of the basic morphine and all this cocaine, etc. Okay, cannabinoids, etc. So you must know the structure. This can come for drawing, but the plant will never come for drawing. The plant is given for identification. But many a times the structure plus the plant has come for identification. Okay, so let's proceed. Ill effects, that is the harmful effects on the body of morphine is it slows down the respiratory system, constriction of pupil, because this constriction of body parts is taking place. So even the pupil will get constricted, decreased secretions by gland. Okay, so if suppose constriction of the gland vessels is taking place, or the mouth of the glands is taking place, the secretion by the glands will also decrease. And we know that endocrine glands are so very important for carrying out so many functions of the body. So if the glands are not working properly, it will have a long term effect. Then it impairs digestion. The digestive system does not work properly. Nausea, feeling of vomiting, the coming out of the digestive food from mouth. Sterility, that means it may affect the formation of sperms or ova also. Loss of weight, fertility, and interest in work. Okay, so all these things are the side effects of taking morphine. Fine. So morphine, just remember that morphine, it belongs to the opioid narcotics, to the opium group, and it is extracted from the latex of the unripe fruit. Okay, so derivatives of opium are, first is morphine, the only one which is given in your book. Okay, so morphine is a derivative. It is the principal alkaloid of opium. It is a strong analgesic, pain reliever, effective sedative, and painkiller. Okay, then is heroin. Heroin is diacetyl morphine. When modification is done to the basic morphine, it forms all these types of structures. Okay, so when to this basic structure of morphine, diacetylation is done. That is then it becomes 3 times more potent than morphine, and it is called as heroin, and it is highly addictive. Okay, it is very much addictive, much more addictive than morphine. If suppose to the basic structure of morphine, then acetylation is done. Only one acetylation is done. It is called as SMAC. Okay, it is given in your NCRT. See here on page number 158. Heroin commonly called, okay, they have called heroin as SMAC. So, but that is not true. It is a product of heroin synthesis. First of all, from morphine, heroin is formed by diacetylation, and then from heroin, further modification of the heroin leads to synthesis of SMAC. But your NCRT claims heroin and SMAC to be the same thing. But as per some good refreshers, they are two different things. First, from morphine, heroin is extracted, and from heroin, some modification, after some modification, smack is extracted. So smack and heroin are two different drugs, and smack is commonly called as brown sugar, and it is a stronger analgesic than morphine. Both heroin and smack are derivatives of morphine and are much more stronger analgesic, much more addictive than morphine. Okay. Then is stimulants. So first were the opioids, narcotics. In opioid narcotics, the first type we have studied is sorry, uh, we have studied about sedatives and hypnotics. That is sorry. The first one was tranquilizers. In psychotropic drugs, the first category was tranquilizers, the second category was sedatives and hypnotics, the third category was opioid narcotics, and we come to the fourth category, that is stimulants. So what are stimulants? Which increase the activity of the brain. Okay, they stimulate the nervous system, make a person more wakeful, alert, and cause excitement. So that if a person is in depression, then a person will be given a stimulant. If a person is suffering from anxiety, then he'll be given a depressant. Okay, so withdrawal stimulants, withdrawal symptoms cause depression, anxiety, and restlessness, and it is a principle. The principal stimulants are, so that means if stimulants are given, then withdrawal symptoms are very, very severe, because the person body brain gets habitual to these stimulants, and in the absence of the stimulants, the person goes into much more depression than he was before taking the drugs. Okay, too much of anxiety and restlessness may also be a side effect of stimulants. What are the principal stimulants? The first principal stimulant is caffeine. Caffeine is a bitter alkaloid obtained from leaves of tea plants and seeds of coffee plants. And just ask your mothers or anybody in the house who has a habit of drinking tea at a set time. The day when they don't take tea at that time, this is what happens. I like jokes apart, but this is what happens during Karwa Chauth. Why females, many of the females have so many problems, and especially they suffer from headache, because they cannot drink water also, and so they don't take tea also, and they're habitual to tea. So severe headache is one of the common thing you'll observe during Karwa Chauth, because they're not having any liquid, so they're not having tea. And if the body is habitual of taking caffeine, then what will happen? Severe headache will occur. It is a common symptom of caffeine dependence. Okay. Then is cocaine. It is a coca alkaloid. Cocaine is again given in your NCRTs at page number 159. So that means as per your NCRT, after opioids, the second important category that we are studying here is cocaine. So now one thing you know about cocaine, that it is a stimulant. Okay. Cocaine, it is also called as coca alkaloid. From where is this cocaine extracted? Cocaine is extracted from the leaves of coca plant, that is Erythroxylon coca, belonging to the family Erythroxylandaceae. Okay, a South American plant generally grown on the foothills of Andes. Okay, foothills of Andes hills, on the towards the base of this Andes hills, majority of this cocaine is grown. Okay, the common name is coke or crack. So see here, this is a cocaine plant. This is Erythroxylum coca. Okay, and Erythroxylum coca, this is the plant from which cocaine is extracted from its leaf. Okay, but plus they are telling you that other plant with hallucinogenic property, they have combined it with cocaine, but we'll do it separately. So this is Erythroxylum coca. This is how the plant looks like, and it is grown at the foothills of Andes, and if from here cocaine is extracted. Okay, so the physical properties of coke or crack is, it is bitter, very, very bitter, very white crystalline powder called snow, sniff, crack, coke, princess, big C. So this drug may be found, may be available in the market in different names. So these are the different names with which this coke is sold in the market. Okay. Method of administration: snorting, that is taking through nose, smoked, or injections of coke or crack is also taken. Effect is vasoconstrictors, that is the blood vessels, the constriction of the blood vessels takes place It can lead to CNS stimulant, that means increases the activity of the brain or the central nervous system. It induces sense of well-being and pleasure. We've seen so many movies, class 12 till date, you must have seen so many movies where they show the youth going and dancing in a dance bar and taking these drugs, and then they lose track of time and they lose the sense of pain or tiredness, and they keep on dancing throughout night. Okay, so what is this? It infuses a sense of well-being and pleasure despite all the problems in life, but in long run it is damaging the brain. It delays fatigue. The tiredness is gone. It delays tiredness. It increases heartbeat, BP, and body temperature. Okay. Now, ill effect. What are the harmful effects of cocaine or coke on the body? Lack of sleep. Once the body gets habitual to this cocaine or coke without having these drugs, the person is not able to sleep. Loss of appetite. The person doesn't feel like having food at all. Headache, convulsions जिसको कहते हैं fits पड़ना. Okay, so in the absence of taking this drug, fits आने लगते हैं, convulsions होने लगते हैं. Insomnia, sleeplessness is insomnia. So the person is not able to sleep. Respiratory or cardiac failure, because it has a effect on our brain. So mental disorders will reside because it has an effect on the heartbeat. It can lead to heart failure and even for respiratory failure, because if it is sniffed, it is going to the respiratory system, then it can lead to failure of the respiratory system, also resulting in death. Excessive dosage causes hallucinations. Hallucination means you are presuming things, you are seeing things which do not exist. मैंने ghost देखा, आज मैंने भूत देखा. भूत जैसा कुछ होता नहीं है, आपने देख कहां से लिया? I saw my friend who was dead 10 years back. He came and met me. What is this? Hallucinations. You are imagining things happening on their own, whereas they are not actually happening. So hallucination is your brain getting hyperactive and imagining things which are not there. This is hallucination. So excessive dosage of coke and coke can lead to hallucination, and obviously if it is taken in too much amount, it can lead to death of the person immediately also. Okay, then the second category. Okay, second category of drugs was the psychedelic drugs. Okay, psychedelic drugs are also known as hallucinogens, all of them called hallucinations. You live in your own world, the behavior changes, and you are imagining things which are not there. It changes one's behavior, thoughts, feelings, and perceptions without any actual stimulus. उसने मेरे को मारा, वो तो आपके पास खड़ा भी नहीं है. Okay, this person is doing me a favor. Okay, उसने देखो मेरे को ला करके दिया, is so good for me, जबकि वो person तो वहाँ पर present ही नहीं है. You are imagining things. Hallucinations are taking place. They make users see sound, hear colors. A common phrase which is said for psychedelic drugs is कि इसको लेने के बाद people claim that they can see sound. You can see me, but can you see the sound coming out of your laptop or your phones to your ears? चलता हुआ दिख रहा है ये sound waves आपको? So people who take this psychedelic drug, they claim that they are able to see the sound and they can hear the colors. We can see the colors. People claim that they can hear the colors. Okay, the colors are speaking to them. Fine, that I am red, I am green, I am blue. Fine. So this is what happens. It is all hallucination. Brain की activity overactive हो गया है brain. Okay. So now hallucinogens can be also divided into two types. First is natural hallucinogens. Again, जिसमें cannabinoids बहुत important है, क्योंकि cannabinoids आपकी book में भी है. Page 159, second paragraph is cannabinoids. Okay, तो इसका भी हम plant identify करेंगे, इसका structure identify करेंगे. So cannabinoids, the source is leaf, raisins, and flower of hemp plant that is called as cannabis indica. Cannabis indica, what is the common name of cannabis indica के अलावा और भी plants होते हैं. Let me show you this cannabis plant first. This is the cannabis plant. This is how a cannabis plant looks like. और सबसे ज्यादा कॉमन, सबसे ज्यादा ड्रग जो मिलता है कैनबिस इंडिका तो है ही, द मोस्ट कॉमन प्लांट इज कैनबिस सटाइवा. दिस जीनस इज मोर कॉमन, जिसमें से सबसे ज्यादा ड्रग एक्सट्रैक्ट होता है. दिस इज हाउ अ कैनबिस प्लांट लुक्स लाइक. दे हैव शोन यू इन योर बुक आल्सो. कैनबिस सटाइवा का डायग्राम दे हैव शोन यू. ठीक है. तो कैनबिस सटाइवा के कौन कौन से पार्ट्स से cannabinoids can be extracted, let us see. So it can be extracted from flowers. Main expression of cannabinoids and that is CBZ and other cannabinoids. So the main cannabinoids हैं सबसे ज़्यादा flowers से extract होते हैं. Newly forming leaves and flowers से भी small amount of cannabinoids can be extracted. From leaves, cannabinoids are extracted, but a lesser amount. And from stem also cannabinoids can be extracted to a very less amount. So that means cannabinoids can be extracted from the stems, from the leaves, from the buds, from the flowers of this cannabis sativa plant. Yes, Aditya.
Ma'am, what does that mean? Like a low cannabinoid content photosynthetic energy.
They have, because they have got the photosynthetic energy, because they are carrying out photosynthesis. So the amount of cannabinoids in the leaves is lesser. Flowers में photosynthesis नहीं हो रही है, chlorophyll नहीं है, तो वहाँ पे cannabinoids का amount ज़्यादा present होता है. ठीक है? That is the only thing. Okay. Now what is the structure of this cannabinoid molecule? So this is the general structure. ठीक है? इसको कैसे याद रखेंगे? Beak bird वाला structure किसका था? Morphines का. ठीक है. एंड अ बॉय लाइक स्ट्रक्चर, सी अ बॉय स्टैंडिंग, जैसे हम कार्टून बॉयज बनाते थे ना, तो उससे हम याद रखेंगे कैनाबिनॉइड लाइक स्ट्रक्चर. थोड़े से की पॉइंट्स बना लेने चाहिए सो दैट यू आर एबल टू सी, और एकदम से आप डिमार्केट कर सको कि ये कौन सा स्ट्रक्चर है. ठीक है. सो मेक सम की पॉइंट्स इन योर माइंड टू रिमेंबर द स्ट्रक्चर. राइट. So this is the skeletal structure of a cannabinoid molecule. Now let's study about cannabinoids further. About cannabis indica, मेन आपके बुक में दिया cannabis sativa. So indica से भी हो सकता है, cannabis sativa से सबसे ज्यादा extract होता है. Okay. What is the effect? They interact with cannabinoid receptors present in the pain. जैसे opioid receptor से interact कर रहे थे opioids, they are interacting with the cannabinoid receptors. ठीक है. There are 4 types of cannabinoids. First is the bhang. सुना तो होगा. Yes. So very common during Holi, many people, and it is considered as, you know, Bhagwan Shankar ka prasad. He used to have bhang, but ideally it is illegal to have bhang because that is a cannabinoid. It is a drug. Fresh or dried leaves and flowering shoot of male and female cannabis sativa is used as bhang. It is taken orally and it acts very, very slowly. It's not a very strong cannabinoid. It acts very slowly. Okay. Then is ganja. The dried unfertilized female inflorescence is used for extracting cannabinoids, और उस cannabinoid से जो drug बनता है उसका नाम होता है ganja. It is smoked in cigarettes. It is very potent. भांग से कहीं ज़्यादा potent है, and it shows a immediate effect. The moment it is smoked, hallucinogenic effect start हो जाता है. Okay. Then is charas. It is dried a resinous extract of flowering tops and leaves. Leaves of flowers का ये जो extract है, resins है, उनका उसमें से जो cannabinoids extract किए वहां से extract किया जाता है charas. It is smoked with tobacco. It is mixed with tobacco and it is smoked. It is most potent. In सब में सबसे ज़्यादा potent है charas. I think the period is over. Somebody is saying. Okay. So I'll quickly compare the feeling of well-being and happiness. Okay. So we have studied about the cannabinoids.